it's a lot that a lot of people, we don't think about. It's a lot of stuff we just see happen and we don't understand our relationship to it organically. It's just, it is what it is. We're going to get into a few of these things because it's important to learn to understand the concept of the zodiac, horoscopes and what that's about, and the planets and what that's about. Like, how does that really affect us, and what we need to know and do to receive the highest appreciation or the highest value of what it has, to give us. And there's a context that we need to understand in relation to everything that's going on around us, because it's a lot seen and unseen. And again, this stuff is always about energy. And we have to understand it's so much energy around us, so many things. The sun, the moon, wind, water, fire, earth, all these things give off energy. And there's so many things that grow from the ground that benefit us, that benefit mankind, the animals, and so on and so forth. And it's this whole, what they call the force, when you understand it, it's this whole relationship that everything has to each other that we don't really understand anymore because their knowledge is gone. The animals understand it. Plants understand it. The trees understand it. The winds. Everybody understands. Everything else on this planet understands what's going on. And we're lost. And it's us not realizing that, this connection is important. It's like really important to our spiritual growth. And as I talk about in deeper videos, how this is really put out there for us to understand. And there is no real purpose to life, because it's hard to say it that, there's no purpose, but there's a purpose. You have to really understand what that means, because it's deep, because there is really no purpose. The whole thing is about you just living life, experiencing life, going throughout your day, experiencing. And now, to get the most out of us, to maximize our growth, energetically and consciously, we have to have experiences. We have to have choices. And that's what it comes down to. So you just living your life and doing what you're supposed to do and going about those choices that you have to make is your experience in this existence. And we have been through it enough to where, it is what it is. It's in our DNA. The fact that, of course, we come from our parents, why don't we get this? And people don't understand this, how deep this is. Yeah, we come from our parents. So the fact that these genetic traits is passed down to us to where we can look like our parents, we can do things that our parents did or our grandparents did, that tells you right there that that generation was passed down. That knowledge, that energy was passed down through your parents to you, and you now carry it, which tells you what? That reincarnation is a real thing, and that the energy continues. We're going to get into energy a lot in this video. We're going to get into it a lot because you need to understand it's the same energy. We've been so confused by Adam and Eve and who was here first and so on and so forth that we don't understand that basic principle that we're all energy, the same energy experiencing itself in a physical form. This one cosmic conscious energy that's here that wants to experience this physical reality on this level. The only way possible to do it is to be in the physical, plain and simple. So energy all around us, plain and simple. We got to understand that it's energy everywhere. A lot of energy is seen, but a lot of it is also unseen. Now, we talked about in ancient Egypt how they had this wireless energy, the whole true purpose of the pyramids, and the whole thing about, the ionosphere and the negative ions, and how the pyramids was producing these negative ions and what that means and how it benefits us. And we talked about the tombs. When you go into a lot of these Egyptian tombs, there was evidence that there was a light source within there, a wireless light source. And then we get into Nikola Tesla. Tesla discovered this, and he basically went in and broke down the science on this whole thing. And this is what it says. Just go down here. It says, at the height of his career, the pioneering electrical engineer Nikola Tesla became obsessed with an idea. He theorized that electricity could be transmitted wirelessly through the air at long distances, either via a series of strategically positioned towers or hopping across a system of suspended balloons. So Tesla understood it. He broke it down how this was possible. And that was the thing with Tesla. It's all about energy, electricity. The whole thing with the, car right now and the Tesla that's out now, it's about electricity. So he understood this. And, when you understand the story real quick about Tesla, it was JP Morgan that basically funded him to go ahead and do this project. And, he let on that the project was basically going to be to build this whole, electrical tower that was going to kind of make it easier to send information between ships. And he had to put them on, different coasts. I think one was going to be in Europe, one was going to be in the Americas. And it was going to kind of have like a monopoly on being able to send, information or signals, via ships. And JP Morgan was one of the owners of the Titanic and one of the owners of a lot of ships. Everybody know his family was wealthy and all that. But Tesla was basically working on, his whole wireless energy invention to basically give everybody free energy. That was his goal, to have the world have free energy, because he knew the energy was everywhere. It was in the air. And once JP Morgan found out about it, he cut all ties and cut funding. And we know that Tesla ended up dying, alone in his apartment. And broke. So big deal about understanding Tesla, and it's so much more to him that we'll get into in the next video because it's important. But so we have this understanding, energy all around us, everywhere. And there's so much stuff that happens that people don't understand. And one of the biggest things that we take for granted is air. Air is everywhere. Wind. How is it possible? How do we get air? How does wind blow? And it's just something we take for granted every day. And we don't really understand that this energy around us, or when you start to think about energy, it's like, where? But every single thing, every single piece of matter has energy and emits energy, which we'll get into. But with air, Earth is the reason why we can have air. And then you have to think about terraforming a planet and why Earth would be important. So we just call Earth, Earth. It's just Earth. We also call ground Earth, but what is that? And we know it comes from out there. We know we see meteors and comets, and we see, some have metal in it, but it's rock, dirt, dust. What is that from? So when you start breaking it down to basic, particles and atoms, it's like Earth must be really important. But it's important because if you're going to have life, you need Earth. You need rock, because everything stems from the Earth. It's a big deal. So you have the sun basically heat up the ground, and you have, air is a molecule, and it's actually a couple molecules, oxygen, nitrogen, oxygen. There's a few other, gases and molecules, but you have the sun heat up the Earth. And then what you have is, as the Earth get hotter, you have this air. Air is created. And then the hotter it get, the more it begins to fan out and rises. And then we have air. So air rises, right? So then on the flip side, you have that hot air rising. On the flip side, you have cool air. And we know the cooler air basically takes the place of the air that rises, if it's near. So the warmer air, it expands, it rises, gets lighter. And the cooler air is dense, it's heavy, it weighs down, it takes the place of the rising, lighter expanding air. And then you have wind. So again, that process is called wind. So we have this. So this is energy moving around us 24/7. So since it's always wind, this is always happening. So it says here, when thermal energy radiates from the sun, it heats both the land and ocean. But water has a specific high heat capacity, so it heats up slower than land. This temperature difference creates a convection current, which then manifests as wind. This wind possesses kinetic energy, which it can transfer to grains of sand on the beach by carrying them a short distance. If the moving sand hits an obstacle, it stops due to the friction created by the contact, and its kinetic energy is then transformed into thermal energy or heat. Once enough sand builds up over time, these collisions can create sand dunes and possibly even an entire dune field. That's what I learned in school. These newly formed sand dunes provide a unique environment for plants and animals. A plant may grow in these dunes by using light energy. Light energy is big. We won't get into that. A plant may grow in these dunes by using light energy radiated from the sun, to transform water and carbon dioxide into chemical energy, which is stored in sugar. When an animal eats the plant, it uses the energy stored in that sugar to heat its body and move around, transforming the chemical energy into kinetic and thermal energy. Though it may not always be obvious, energy transfers and transmissions constantly happen all around us and are what enable life as we know it to exist. The sun, that's why the sun is God. So when Christians talking about, oh, God created us and created that, and people who don't believe in reincarnation, it's like, well, how is he creating a new body, a new energy? Body, understand it's material, but a new energy to go in that body. How is that possible when energy, as it says here, energy cannot be created or destroyed, meaning that the total amount of energy in the universe has always been and will always be constant. However, this does not mean that energy is immutable. It can change form and even transfer between objects, which basically what he was saying, energy cannot be created or destroyed by transfer from one form to another. It's important stuff, understanding that. So just the whole concept of God creating this new energy that people think, or Christians will have us believe, is this whole totally new person and not a reincarnation or a transformation of, energy that existed. So reincarnation, you coming back in a different body, but the same energy that the body locks away those memories for a reason, but the DNA activates and does what it's supposed to do and recalls the memories it needs to recall, like how to walk and talk and so on and so forth, depending on the body and, how good it's, taken care of, or how good the mom was and, prenatal care. So we have energy from the ground, molecules in the ground. We have energy in the air. We have this whole process with light, which we'll get into. And it's so much going on around us. And we heard this whole term of airways. Remember, for those of you who are old enough to remember radio stations and airways and stuff like that, everything's digital for a reason. So we had airwaves. Airwaves, and it was like, oh, we're playing your station on the airwaves. And it was like, what was that about, the airwaves? So we know radio stations had those huge radio towers, satellites or what have you. And then we had, that's the transmitter. We had the receiver, which would be our radios. Your radio picked up this signal. Again, this is stuff that we just so nonchalantly take, for granted and not really understanding the process and how it really is, big to us and the universe. So we have these radios that's picking up this signal coming from this large antenna at the radio station, but we never understood the process. I mean, you got to think about it. Okay, so how does it work? Like, you got this big radio tower and somehow I'm receiving a signal from that tower to my little radio. How is that possible? I can't see it. And how is it that I can't see it and it's energy? How is it possible to transfer this music and voice to a signal that I can't see that's going to go into my radio and then, give me sound? It's just crazy. And the science behind, radio stations is real simple. That tower has electricity flowing through it, and the flow of the electricity causes the electrons within the antenna to basically vibrate, which creates radio waves. And these radio waves basically, transmit out. And if you have a radio that is tuned in to that frequency, which will be that station's number, you might as well say, then you'll be in tune with that radio. Now, we as conscious people, we talk about being in tune with the universe and in tune with, and we don't go back and think about where did we hear these terms and phrases from. Like, you got to tune into your favorite television programming. Tune into tune. And it's basically you tuning in and getting in tune with, what's being put out. But it's deeper because we can, on so many other levels, get in tune. We just don't know how. We know what they gave us. So we have these radio waves. And radio waves is basically electromagnetic radiation traveling at the speed of light. So that light or that radiation or that frequency reaches our radio. So then, what is light? It's traveling at the speed of light. What is light? Light is energy, of course. Light has a frequency just like those radio waves have a frequency. So these electromagnetic waves is covered by the electromagnetic spectrum, which is a range of frequencies of electromagnetic radiation in regards to its wavelength, frequency, and photon energy, as we can see here in this chart. So the longer the wavelength, the lower the frequency, and the shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency. And there is an infinite range of frequencies in electromagnetic waves. So this range from radio waves, microwaves, infrared, light that we can see, visible light, which would be basically the color spectrum. Then we have like X-rays and gamma rays or what have you. And this is the spectrum. And we heard this whole term, the electromagnetic spectrum or the spectrum of light. And this is what, we can see, this visible light. It's the only spectrum we was given. And we've been told animals can see different spectrums, seeing different things that we can't see. But this is what we can see for a reason. And if you think about it, with all this air and energy going around, I mean, who wants to see the Bluetooth signal or the Wi-Fi signal? We don't want to see that. That's unseen energy. We know it exists, but it will be all across our face, going through our bodies, so on and so forth. And the higher, if it was tuned up higher, which is this whole 5G stuff, it would affect us. So we have all the stuff that's going on right now has to be emitted at a certain frequency, a certain level that is not harmful to, material, to our bodies. So it's put out that way. But we always take for granted, like the remote, how we sit on the couch and use the remote to change the channel, how we use all of our Bluetooth and wireless devices to go ahead and just go about our daily life. How does that work? Where is that energy? Where is it coming from? And if it does affect us. So, we talk about, you can see on the spectrum here is ELM, ELF, and we understand there's a lot of energy all around us, and the most powerful energy can't be seen, but it's energy all around us. Everything we need is all around us. I had put on my Instagram about the black guy who invented this machine that basically took the air and made clean water. And, they sabotaged one of his machines. A lot of people was asking questions about him. Is he still alive? I believe so. And I believe he's still putting these machines out because there's a real use for that. A military use and just a practical use for it. If you think about, and yes, he did put one in Flint, Michigan. If you think about how something like that can be used just in wartime or in, African countries and places where, it's deadly and dangerous to go and try to get water and, have to worry about contamination and so on and so forth. But the fact that this dude can pull water from the air and make water, I mean, like a lot of water, it was a big deal. So it's telling you, and it's something I believe that, the ancients knew and possibly used. Everything is around us. We have to really understand how to tap into it. And for those who know my deeper work, I get into this. And one of the reasons why, the white man was created to do exactly what he's doing. As we get deeper into that, a lot of people is going to understand. As I said, I don't talk about it much because it's not going to be good for some people to know this information. And most people, they're not going to accept it. They're not going to want to accept it. But what's happening is deep. There's a lot of stuff going on, and our relationship to it is important. And I got into this before about how you got to understand why stuff was put out the way it was, why the Egyptians put out information and everything was on so much of a teaching choice. Like it has to be taught, but you have to make the choice to accept it and to choose what you're going to learn and understand. It can't just be given to you. And it's a reason for that. It's like I said, pay attention to history. The ancient Egyptians had the mystery schools for a reason. And it's like, dude, stop playing. Tell me what it is. What the fuck is we doing here? What is the point of all this shit? Like, what is this place? Just tell me. And it's like, why are they not just telling us straight out? Why we got a Horus and Osiris and like, why do we have to know about all this stuff? What is going? Just tell me what the fuck it is. And then you look at the Greeks, and then the Greeks, war, deception, everything they did, sacrificed so many people. And then when they got the information, they did the exact same thing. Oh shit. Religion. They flip the script. And then it's like, we get these religions and all this esoteric teachings, and we like, what the hell is all this? Just stop playing. Tell me what the hell is going on. What am I supposed to be doing? What is this place? And as much as I would love to just, put it out there. It's even if I did, This is the information you would need to know to even understand it and accept it, because you wouldn't if I just told you what's going on. And in the upcoming videos that I have coming out, because as I talked about on YouTube, it's going to be a video every week, which I put on YouTube and Merkabah Academy. But it's a lot more stuff that's happening. We're changing. We're coming into this age of Aquarius. A lot is going to happen. A lot is going to change. And it's going to be crazy and scary. And everybody's sitting back now. And you can see what's happening. A lot of people can see it. So there's a lot more information we got to get into to come into, what's coming. And I'll be putting it out. And as I said, I got ahead of this. And it's the reason for Merkabah Academy, because as you can see, you can't even say certain words on YouTube. You can't say shit. They will cut you off. It's not about them demonetizing your videos and not paying you. I'm talking they will take your shit down and demonetize you. And then in worst cases, ban your channel. They would just destroy it. And, nobody wants to deal with that. And not everybody can have a platform to do what I'm doing. And yeah, it's definitely worth it. And I appreciate you guys' support on it. But to get into that, so much, information we got to understand and learn. And energy is the biggest thing, because it's us. It's who we really are. And this matter is just, material that we're interacting with and experiencing. But we need to understand our true essence, which is our energy, and how everything, it goes off that. So, this man creating this machine, beautiful thing, turning the air into water, just giving us more understanding that everything we need is here. Everything we need is here. It's possible for us to obtain it and to live a good life, but it's more to the story. So now you got to think about that. And, energy. And the biggest part about this video is emotions. What is that? Emotions is everything. Emotions control our day. They control what we do as people. Emotions are a big deal. So as I said, we have energy all around us. We are literally walking transmitters and receivers. Plain and simple. Energy all around us. So emotions is the experience. It is the experience of the energy that's flowing through us. The energy that's all around us. And it's constant energy around us. So we're going to get into how we are walking transmitters and receivers in a second. But understanding that. So you have the wind. There's energy. You have the sun, the light of the sun, just light, period. Any light shining on you is energy passing through you. Everything gives off an energy. Every single object has an energy that can be registered, that can be read. Everything that's matter has an energy, unless you are below zero, which nothing can be there. That's matter. When you really understand, that can be read. So, this whole infrared thing, you get an infrared camera, you can see the body heat. And that's basically how we are, what we're emitting. That's the heat it sees. A lot of the energy we emit, which we emit radiation, which we'll get into in a second, can be measured. It can be, registered and seen with instruments, of course. But it's something we already know. Like, you give off energy. You feel that vibe from a person. That's their energy. Now it says here, do humans give off radiation? Yes, humans give off radiation. Humans give off mostly infrared radiation, which is electromagnetic radiation with a frequency lower than visible light. This effect is not unique to humans. All objects with a non-zero temperature gives off thermal radiation, and because a temperature of exactly absolute zero is physically impossible, all objects give off thermal radiation. We have to be careful here. Thermal radiation is not the exact same thing as infrared radiation. Thermal radiation is all the electromagnetic waves given off by an object because of its temperature, and indicates radio waves, infrared waves, and even visible light, as we was talking about before. That's that spectrum, this whole electromagnetic spectrum. Infrared waves are only one part of thermal radiation. The two tend to get confused because most of the thermal radiation is infrared radiation for temperatures that are comfortable to humans. As an object gets hotter, the peak of its thermal radiation shifts to higher frequencies. The sun is hot enough that most of its thermal radiation is emitted as visible light and near infrared waves. Thermal radiation only transports heat and indicates the temperature of its source. Different people at different times give off different amounts of radiation, but these differences just indicate who is hotter and not who is fatter, taller, sadder, or more saintly. Thermal images of a person captured using an infrared camera just indicates the temperature of the person's skin and cannot be used to diagnose disease happening below the skin. Clothes tend to block infrared radiation, so a man with his shirt off emits more radiation than when it is on. Anybody who has tinkered with an infrared camera, which I have, can attest to this fact. And it's crazy when you see that. You can just see the body heat. It's like how snakes or what have you, reptiles can read our body heat the same way. They have this infrared vision. It just goes to show you again how, we were created differently and given different, attributes to say, than animals for a reason. It's a purpose to it. Infrared radiation is non-ionizing and therefore cannot give you cancer. It's a good thing because the rocks, trees, chairs, tables, and walls around us are constantly flooding us with a barrage of infrared radiation. For the most part, humans do not emit other forms of radiation besides thermal radiation. People often eat trace amounts of radioactive minerals that occur naturally, and they therefore give off tiny amounts of other types of radiation. For instance, Brazil nuts and bananas contain higher amounts of radioactive elements, but the amounts are too small to be noticeable or have an effect on their health. If a person has a medical scan taken that requires drinking radioactive contrast, he will emit more radiation than normal for a few hours until the contrast decays, but the amounts are still too small to have an effect on everyday life and health, which is good. So that's just more proof positive. We have this energy. This energy is all around us in the room, off of every box of freaking sneakers that's in here. And excuse me for having a record in here. They're doing a lot of construction over where the green screen room is. And it's kind of loud. And I don't have time to record this later. I know, but the place don't matter. Just the information. Just putting it out there. But I ain't trying to brag and show off my sneakers. Most people seen them. But yeah, I used to sell, by the way, one of the things I used to get into it. People who know me know I'm a big sneakerhead because not just I like sneakers, because of the value that's in them, especially now. But okay, back to the video. But yeah, so we know proof positive, energy all around us, energy everywhere. We can't see it all. We know it exists. We can measure it with different instruments and, different things that, we can see through. And it's important. It's important to understand because then, again, it takes us back to that whole sun thing and understanding why the sun was revered and important. And the crazier thing that they already understood everything I'm saying to you. So everything under the sun is alive and well, it's breathing, it's living, it has life, it emits a frequency, a energy. And they understood that. So it's the sun is God, because without the sun, nothing is happening. So that energy that it would take for these atoms to come together to, as I always talk about, our bone structure, 20 hydrogen atoms gives us calcium, the element, which gives us our bone structure. Like the energy for all this stuff to even, it needs to be sun. Sun is important for this stuff to even do what it needs to do. So to have us, the sun shining, basically half the planet, you might as well say, and everything that's happening versus the dark half and what's happening over there. And then how it's this cycle that must exist. It's yin yang. It's the darkness and the light. It has to happen. Everything is dualistic. Everything is duality. I always get into that. And it's one of the reasons why what happened with our foods had to happen, as I got into before. You can't just have good food 24/7. We're going to get into this in an upcoming video I have on foods and meats or what have you. But it's important. I put out a video on YouTube before, but this one is going to be more deeper. But it's important to understand this yin-yang process, this choice process that must exist. It's more deeper than what I'm talking about here. But if you watch my videos, you get it. You're starting to understand now. So big deal with the sun. It's God. It's everything. It's giving life and energy to everything that's here and everything that's under the sun. Sun is down. We got the moon. We have this moon energy, this light that affects us, as we talked about in part 1, how the moon affects parts of our bodies, our organs, and so on and so forth. This is a big deal. So now, how do we process this energy in motion, these emotions? How is it processed? And we have the analytical brain and we have the emotional brain. And the emotional brain processes information way faster than the analytical brain, which people may think is the analytical brain, but no, it's the emotional brain. And just quick example, the analytical brain is, accounting, numbers. Everything has to add up. Facts, truth. It must be proven, it has to make sense for me to deal with it. Analytical. Then you have emotional brains, it's your empathy, just a better example, just a homeless person. The emotional brain will look at it and be like, this guy's eating out the trash. Let me give him a couple dollars. That would be the emotional brain. The analytical side of you will be like, this guy's going to take my money and get some drugs. I'm not giving him a penny. I got kids to feed, so on and so forth. You're not getting high for my money. And then, the whole point of it all is to come to a balance, of course, a balance. And then the balance would basically be, you know what? Hey, what do you want to eat? This is what you say to the homeless guy. This way, if he wants food, he gets food. He eats, he gets what he needs. You don't have to worry about that situation. The right thing was done with the money. It's your choice. But then we say, so what? I'm not giving this guy money. He shouldn't have did what he did. Whatever excuse we make up for his position that we don't know about. And then we go about our life. And then you have to leave it up to karma.